Welcome to our webinar. We're going to talk to you about the Early Help Practitioner Programme. The aim of this webinar is to show you and talk to you about the skills-based training and how it fits latest policy. We're going to cover the course content with you, a bit about our training style, and importantly what the course gives you. Certainly if you're a commissioner you'll be particularly interested in this. So for those of you that haven't heard about Interface, we're a national provider of specialist expertise, and that's all around approaches to support and work with vulnerable children and families. So today I'm obviously going to talk to you about training, but we also provide specialist expertise and support, and we provide evaluation and monitoring. So we were set up from members of the Family Delivery Team and the Department for Education, the Families at Risk team. We received some grant funding from the Department for Education and also DCLG, Department of Communities and Local Government, and that was around working with early help, troubled families, families at risk, etc. We've got a lot of experience across the country in providing training to many local authorities, also the voluntary sector, schools, early years sector and children's social care widely. We've got a lot of skills and knowledge and experience around working with complex and vulnerable families, as well as change management, improvement support and evaluation. So why have we created a new course? As we've been travelling around the country and keeping up to date with the national policy, we know that policy and practice has changed. So you're working to different agendas, you've got different priorities, and staff roles and responsibilities have also changed. And we wanted to capture these in a really up-to-date programme. So we know that there's more multi-agency working, and there's more staff needing to work in a whole family way. So for example, children's centre staff that may have been working with 0 to 5s are now working with the whole family and being expected to work with mum and dad and older siblings. There's also more emphasis on assessments and plans, and there's much more focus on outcomes for children and families. We've also responded to customer feedback because we know that learners and commissioners are really clear with us on what they wanted from an early help programme. And because we've got experience of training over 6,500 practitioners, we've got a really good idea of what's needed in the workforce. So this course is based on our experience and our customers' feedback. We also wanted to have a really flexible course so that although we've got a fixed programme and we've got 3 units which we're going to talk to you about, we can change that and bespoke that to meet your precise local needs. So we'll work with you looking at your forms, your processes, your threshold documents and make sure that that's incorporated into the training to make it absolutely valid and useful for you at a local level. Worth at this point saying that we've also got a level 4 qualification covering similar units. It's a regulated qualification and that provides 3 units, 15 credits. We're not going to be talking to you about that anymore in this webinar, but it might just be worth raising that for now because you can take this to a regulated qualification level if you are interested. So the Early Help Programme is a comprehensive 4-day programme and it's designed specifically for the early help workforce. It supports learners to work effectively with children and families, so they'll have an understanding of strong multi-agency and integrated working across partnerships. The training's really practical with a focus on skills and strategy, but backed up by an understanding of what works and why. So we want your workers and your learners to be able to deliver positive and effective support, and that's what this course will provide. As I mentioned, it's developed following feedback from staff, including those working in children's and adult social care across a range of disciplines. And the course comes with an individual workbook and, importantly, a reflective log to make sure that they're able to embed this into practice. So I'm going to hand over to Claire now, who's the training manager, who will talk you through the content of the Early Help Programme.
Thank you. So there's 3 units within the Early Help Programme that we run over the 4 days. The first unit being effective engagement and communication. And this is built around skilling workers to be able to form effective relationships with all family members, being able to engage the family members and also to be able to offer some challenge around relationship building. Some different communication styles that can be used that can enhance our boundaries, building of trust, how we can work in partnership with both the families and with the multi-agency partners. We're looking at explore strategies to adapt and change our communication styles. Many of the feedback we've been getting is that it's really hard to engage family members when they're working on a voluntary agreement but don't really want the support. So we look at how we can adapt and change the communication that we have to build on the effective engagement. We'll get staff to consider family function and how we can use this to really support our moving families forward towards change. Our second unit looks at skills to complete family and individual assessments around tools and planning. So we'll look at a range of tools that we can use both in the home and within the organisations, how we can really get to what the root of the issues are within families, how we can use them to support all family members and the whole family. We'll learn new strategies and skills to make sure that we're capturing the voice of the child and how we recognise risk and how we manage risk, how to develop clear, smart family plans, both to support packages, develop skills and practice around both attending team around the family meetings and chairing those meetings, looking at reviews of family plans, how we keep moving them forward, and looking at a range of different tools. And our third and final unit is around supporting individuals and families towards independence and self-reliance. So what we really want to get within the early help process is that families becoming independent, being able to make their own decisions. So we'll look around motivating families to change, thinking about those cases that just get stuck or might drift, how we understand how to address barriers towards learning, education and employment, how we tackle those conversations and move them forward, how we try and motivate families to think around those things in the future. How do we manage endings and closures for families and the need to build appropriate exit strategies. So we look at building exit strategies in if they're not in place already, how some families might need more, how we get families to start thinking around using universal services, and consider how we build resilience and improve work with individual and families. We'll also consider building resilience with workers as well as families, so how we get workers to keep moving forward with families so we don't hold on to cases that we don't feel confident with.
So we know that this training covers essential areas that have been identified as skill shortages in practice. So this includes practitioners effectively addressing concerns, having difficult conversations and bringing about sustainable change. Those are the real tricky areas. So we're keen to help you to make sure that your workers can really make a difference for individual children and families and really improve outcomes for you. And that's why we've created this flexible programme. And as I mentioned, we can tailor the content to meet your local needs. So what else is important? We'd like to have a conversation with lead officers before we provide the training for you, just to be absolutely clear what you're looking for out of the programme, whether you've got any local issues, blocks, groups of learners, where there's particular issues which we might need to be aware of or address throughout the training. As I mentioned, it's 4 full days training programme and we're able to share the session plan overview of the content with you. We're able to provide bespoke courses to include your specific forms and templates, and the reflective log is really important because we want to make sure that this learning is embedded into practice and that your learners are continually reflecting on their practice so that they're able to bring about sustainable change. So we're really solid and credible as a provider. As I mentioned earlier, we've trained about 6,500 practitioners and managers over the last 5 years. We've got an excellent reputation for quality provision and we know that we're a key provider of training and in the early help workforce an absolute lead provider. So you really are in good hands. We understand the workforce. We've created this course because we know what's needed and we also know that our training leads to improved practice. Feel free to have a look at our website and see what people say about us. So if I was a commissioner sitting in an area, I'd want to know, what does this give me? And in a nutshell, it gives you a course which recognises the role and the skills needed to carry out. And as I mentioned earlier, people's roles are changing, the skills are different, the conversations are different, and we want people to feel supported and recognised in that new role. It's also investment in individuals and as teams, because we know that we provide for whole teams and they feel really supported in being taught the training in the first place, but also the ongoing reflection and staff support supervision that goes on after the course. It gives them some time to reflect and understand what's working in their practice and why it's working, and also obviously what's not working and why it wouldn't be working. So importantly, we give them a safe space to try out some new approaches. We'll get them to put some skills into practice and try that out in our safe environment. And we can also create the course particularly to meet your bespoke needs. So we know that this course creates a really energised and effective workforce. You'll end up with a supportive and open-minded workforce with the ability and energy to bring about change. This also leads to more effective case working and, importantly, less time with cases being stuck or blocked. We also know that it builds a more resilient workforce who are then able to manage their role and also support others in their role. Here's a couple of things that people have recently said in the last few weeks about our training. I've learnt more in this training than any other training over the last 6 years in post. That was a learner from Bedford Borough. And this one from Leeds. The course was so relevant and my role that I remember why I love it so much. Thank you very much. So that's fantastic for us to hear, that this is absolutely normal and regular feedback for us. So the next question probably you're thinking is, what's the price? And here's just an example, because it does largely depend on the number of learners in a room. But if you've got between maybe 15 and 18 learners, that's probably the most cost-effective option, and that works out at £220 a learner over the 4 days. We've also got some e-learning. We've got 4 programmes, but there's actually 2 that we think are particularly suited to go alongside this programme that you might also be interested in. One is around the tools to support work, and that's because e-learning is available for 365 days, so people can keep going back into it and just reminding themselves, certainly for genograms, what's the symbol for this, what's the best way to approach this work with a child, because we give lots of tips. It's not just simply a description of what genograms are, we give lots of tips about how to use them in practice. And the other one's about practitioner skills for reflective practice, because we know that this is what gives you a really resilient and happier workforce. So please feel free to have a look at our website. You'll see here that there's a page devoted to the Early Help Practitioner Programme, and it tells you here about it being 4 days. There's a brochure that you can download and details of the content. And of course, we're always happy to talk to you at any time. So please feel free to contact us either through our website or just pick up the phone 01603 251 730, and either myself or Claire will be really happy to talk to you about how we can help you to make a really effective workforce in your area around early help. So I hope that's been useful for you, just giving you a flavour of the Early Help programme, and we'll be delighted to talk to you further. Thank you very much.